If you're a fan of animated movies, you were probably thrilled by the ending of Puss in Boots 2, where we see the feline heading to far, far away to reunite with his friends, something that directly connects to Shrek 5. That's why we decided to rewatch Shrek Forever After and uncover countless hidden details and Easter eggs that have been buried in the Ogre's movie for years, things nobody had noticed until now. For example, before Shrek 5 was announced, Shrek Forever After was supposed to be the final movie in the Ogre's saga. Because of that, the production team decided to include several tributes to the previous films. One of the biggest ones is on the wall above the headboard of Shrek and Fiona's bed, where we can see several framed pictures. One of them is their honeymoon photo. Right next to it, slightly lower, we can see a picture of Donkey. And right below that, there's a photo of the princesses storming the castle to help Fiona in the second movie. On the other side, there are two more photos. One of them was also taken during their honeymoon, featuring a full moon in the background while Shrek and Fiona gaze at each other romantically. And the other one is from that hilarious scene when they ran away from the angry villagers wielding pitchforks and torches. Now, the real question is, who on earth took all these photos? Could it have been Donkey? Highly unlikely. But one thing's for sure, you're going to love these 32 hidden details you probably never noticed in Shrek Forever After. If you want your mind blown, stick with us and take a peek at this video now. Jumping to the end of the movie, after Shrek returns to his world and life, we see the ogre's hand closing the book with his story's conclusion before placing it on a bookshelf. On that shelf, we can spot several book titles parodying the names of the two protagonists. For example, one of the books is titled A Shrek Summer Night's Dream, a clever parody of Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. There's also Fiona of Troy, a clear reference to the legendary Greek tale of Helen of Troy as told in the Odyssey. Another book on the shelf is Shrek and the Beanstalk. And then there's The Tale of Puss in Boots, which is the only one that keeps its original title. On the other side, we see The Donkey of Seville, a reference to The Barber of Seville, a classic opera, an obvious nod to Donkey's love for singing. We also see an ogre version of Cinderella. Not to mention the tribute to the couple's triplets, who are referenced in the Ugly Duckling version of the three, called the Ugly Shreklings. And all of this happens in just one scene. Now going back to the beginning of the movie, we see that as soon as the carriage of the king and queen, Fiona's parents, arrives at Rumpelstiltskin's territory, whom we'll just call Rumpel here since we're not exactly fluent in Old German, there's a phrase at the entrance that gives us a glimpse of the villain's personality. It reads, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here." This is the exact phrase written on the gates of hell in the Divine Comedy, a work by Italian writer Dante Alighieri, written 700 years ago. This makes it pretty clear that making deals with Rumpel is the same as making a pact with the devil himself, revealing the true origins of the villain. As the carriage moves forward, we can see that the license plate reads Royal Ride, which literally means royal ride. Makes perfect sense since it's the king and queen's carriage.
When the king is about to sign the document that would hand over the entire far, far away kingdom to Rumpel, we can spot a goose symbol in the bottom left corner of the scroll. Most likely, this is a tribute to Fifi, the creepy pet of the little demon himself. And Rumpel really loves his goose. Later in the movie, when Shrek is in his carriage, we can even see a picture of Fifi hanging on the wall. And even further into the movie, when Rumpel has already taken over Fiona's parents' kingdom, we notice that even the royal furniture has been designed with a very sophisticated goose theme, or even on the royal vases, where we can see the face of Rumpel's beloved pet goose beautifully engraved in an elegant fashion. All of this as a tribute to Fifi. Now that's what I call loving your pet. And if you love animated comedy movies as much as we do, drop a comment below with the word OGRE as a shout out to Shrek, Fiona, and their three little ogrelings.
When Shrek is peacefully at home, we see that a tourist attraction now takes groups of visitors every day to see the ogre and his family. And if you pause at just the right moment, you'll notice that the annoying tour guide's name tag says Walt. No doubt, yet another little jab from DreamWorks at its biggest competitor, Disney. After all, it was founded by the brilliant Walt Disney, but many people used to say he was just as annoying as this tour guide. And to prove it's not a coincidence, the name of the tourist attraction, Star Tours, is the same as one of Disney's theme park rides, Star Tours, which is themed around the Star Wars saga. When Shrek's family arrives at the royal castle for the triplets' first birthday celebration, the villagers ask for his autograph on their pitchforks and torches. We can see that they are almost the same ones who chased him during his honeymoon. Additionally, in the background, when the scene focuses on Shrek's face, we can see that the party venue has red apples on its stained glass windows. This is likely a reference to the Snow White fairy tale, where she ate a poisoned apple given to her by her wicked stepmother. That makes us wonder if the space decorated with poisoned apples once belonged to the evil queen, but since there's a under new management banner, it likely means she's no longer in charge. Maybe she served a spoiled apple to a kid having a birthday party there, but at least she's not running things anymore. At least that's what we hope. But it's definitely a reference to the first animated film in Disney history. After the disastrous birthday party, Shrek falls into Rumpel's trap and ends up in an alternate reality where the villain took control of the kingdom of Far, far away from Fiona's parents, and is now its ruler. When Pinocchio approaches him to ask to become a real boy, Rumpel asks the big bad wolf for his business wig, and if we look closely, we'll notice that on the table there are two sweets wearing the exact same wig as Rumpel. a small detail that almost no one noticed while watching the movie. As soon as Donkey falls into the Waffles trap, Shrek finds the ogre resistance, where there are countless beings just like him. This scene definitely surprised me. I never imagined there would be so many of them. But another thing that caught our attention was the posters subtly placed next to the witches, who, in this alternate reality, became the ogre's arch enemies. This makes sense, considering they serve as the villain's police force. Speaking of the witches, they're seen with Rumple in a meeting, coming up with ideas to capture Shrek and prevent him from giving Fiona the true love's kiss that would break the contract's curse. And we see the villain referring to one of the witches as Baba. This is a reference to Baba Yaga, a witch from Russian folklore who was known for devouring little children. And that's not the only reference to mythological characters in the movie. If we go back to the beginning, when Fiona's parents visit Rumple, the queen mentions that the sorcerer was a recommendation from King Midas. In mythology, he was the king who could turn everything he touched into gold, which suggests this might have been the result of a deal with Rumple. After all, this power was both a blessing and a curse. If everything you touch turns to gold, how do you eat and survive? Even though she makes a great suggestion about hiring a bounty hunter, the villain throws a glass of water at her, referencing the weakness of the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz. Just like the poor witch who gets taken out by Rumple, she also keeps repeating, "What a world! What a world!" But something tells us that won't happen in Wicked Part 2, since villains aren't really villains anymore, unfortunately. Now, if you've made it this far, something in this video definitely kept you hooked, so we definitely deserve your subscription. Going back to the bounty hunter, we see that he is actually the Pied Piper from fairy tales. One of the witches dismisses his abilities, so he simply adjusts his flute's enchantometer to affect only witches and makes her dance. But if we rewind a bit to just before the witch mocks him, we can actually see that the witch setting was already visible on his instrument. That was definitely a cool little detail. When Fiona and Shrek talk about what he knows about her, the ogre mentions that every time the former princess sees a shooting star, she crosses her fingers, tilts her nose up, and makes a wish. And that's exactly what she does at the very beginning of the movie, when she wishes that every day could be as happy as the one they were having. We see the magic mirror again in this movie, the same one that belonged to Lord Farquaad in the first film. And if we look closely, we'll notice that several mirrors around it are completely shattered. Going back to the first movie, we remember that Lord Farquaad used to break mirrors to intimidate the magic mirror. This suggests that Rumple apparently adopted the same intimidation tactic. When Rumple announces that he will trade Shrek's capture for the best deal of their lives, the first ones in line with the green troll are none other than the father and the weird kid who annoyed Shrek during his kid's birthday party, insisting that he should roar like a scary ogre, which of course he eventually does after losing his patience. When Rumple shows up to admire his new decorative ball in the castle hall, we notice that it's different from the previous one. It was actually forged using the same shields that the ogres had created to fight against him. Too bad he only realized that after all the ogres burst out of the ball. On top of that, the villain is now wearing a completely different wig from any of the ones he wore before in the movie. That's because this wig is shaped like a goose, yet another tribute to Fifi. Seriously, who loves geese that much? These were the 32 amazing details and Easter eggs we found in Shrek Forever After, just for you. We've picked out 2 more videos for you to watch and enjoy. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.